Welcome to another episode of Overlanding with Bruce. In this episode, I'm going to show some of the modifications we've done to both vehicles, as well as part of our trip from Orpan Gate up to Tsendzi in Kruger National Park. So thank you for joining, and I hope you enjoy this episode. When we arrived at Orpan Gate, fortunately it was very quiet, so the process was quick and we were through in no time. Now I must just pause the video here because this line was about 2 kilometers away from the gate and we were not prepared for it, so we were fumbling around for our cameras, taking pictures instead of videos and almost dropping the camera outside of the window. But eventually we did get it going and we did manage to get some footage, although not great. But what an awesome way to start our adventure through Kruger National Park. When I saw this guy's lens sticking out of his vehicle, I felt a little bit underprepared. An interesting fact about giraffe is that the darker they are, the older they are. So it's kind of like humans go grey, giraffe go dark. After a fairly long drive, but an interesting drive through the park, we arrived at Mopani, checked in, and were able to go and set up camp at Tsendzi. After setting up camp, the fire was started and the decision was made to make pizzas for dinner, which was nice and easy after the long day's drive. That's fine. Okay, heads up, coming through. After a good night's rest, we were woken pretty early by some chainsaws and weed eaters while they were clearing the bush and doing some maintenance around the campsite. So unfortunately our visit coincided with that maintenance that has to be done, so we decided to go on an early morning game drive. So it's been an interesting stay at Tsendzi Wilderness Camp. We've had not the best neighbors, we've had gunshots, and we've had weed eaters and chainsaws every morning. But I mean, it's kind of understandable. Apparently what happened is there's an elephant that keeps trying to break through the staff camp fence. So eventually they had to try and chase it off with gunshots. It sounds a bit dramatic, but how else do you chase an elephant, I suppose? I mean, you can't exactly turn around and say, shoo, elephant, shoo. So it's been entertaining. And then we had two couples camping together. You know, I was quite shocked because they were acting like they were teenagers, but they were actually probably in their 70s or 80s. And the one guy thought he could sing, and the rest of them were carrying on like they were drunken teenagers almost. But apart from that, it's been a really nice place. You know, really nice stay at Tsendzi. I was a little bit disappointed with the campsite because the campsites are on top of each other. You know, if you don't get the right campsites, you end up being within 3-4 meters of your neighbors. But it's one of those things. It's the luck of the draw when you come to a popular place like Kruger National Park. But yeah, Tsendzi has been great. It's just been a little bit disappointing because we didn't have the right campsite. But speaking to the staff here, they say what you got to do, just as a hint for everybody, is that when you book, you phone in after you've made the booking and you book a campsite. We didn't do that. We thought you could only book a campsite once you got here. So we've been watching Get Out Go on YouTube with Chris. You know, looking at his recommendations, and a few other people on Instagram also made some recommendations to campsites. So we kind of used those, drew up a list, and unfortunately not one of those recommended sites was available when we arrived. But like I say, that's the luck of the draw.
Interesting fact, do you know why flies don't land on zebras?
No, tell me.
Because the stripes confuse them.
How do you know if that's true?
David Attenborough told us on National Geographic.
Oh well, that's interesting. I've had a lot of questions about what we've done to the Jimny, so I'll do a quick overview now. We opted for the Easy On roof rack and ladder, mainly because the Easy On roof rack I think is better quality than the latest Frontrunner stuff. Although the Frontrunner stuff is very good and it's got a lot of accessories. I also like the fact that the slats run lengthways. Not sure if you can see it, but they run from the front to the back instead of left to right, and it's one complete roof rack. It's not bolted together. It's also got 4 feet instead of 3 like the Frontrunner. Okay, there's a front bonnet plastic thing that helps with protecting the bonnet. There's these things over the windows which are quite handy because you can actually leave your windows slightly open and the monkeys can't see that they're open. There's your Easy On awning 2000, a classic awning that they make, and it's brilliant. And then the Easy On tent. I had made the comment that the suspension is, standard suspension is fine, but we actually found on this trip that it's not fine, especially going through Blyde River Canyon with all those corners. The Jimny's standard suspension does battle a little bit with the weight on the roof. A little bit heavy on petrol, and it doesn't have much range, but there is space for a couple of extra jerry cans. Okay, so the only upgrades we're looking at doing in the future to the Jimny are tyres. And then that's probably it, and then probably suspension. Improve the suspension over the stock suspension, especially if there's weight on the rack. Another awesome product that we bought just before this trip are these Easy On chairs. If, like me, you are one of the heavier guys, these are much more comfortable. And then to the right of it is a little table, come stool, come footrest, whatever you like to use it for. Very handy. I've actually stood on top of it to reach up onto the roof rack, and it holds my weights fine, and I'm 125 kilos. We haven't really spent a lot of time in Kruger, even though it's on our doorstep. I'm almost embarrassed to say. You know, I've always had this perception that it's very commercialized and very crowded, and any sightings you're going to be in a queue of cars to, you know, have a look at whatever you come across and all this sort of thing. And I must say, it's been a pleasant surprise. Maybe it's because we're out of season. Maybe we've just been lucky, I'm not sure, but it's really not like that. And I think that we're quite happy to come here. You know, we've been very spoiled. We've been traveling Botswana, Mozambique, all these places, and we've really stayed in some isolated places where there's not really campsites and stuff like that. So we're kind of used to that. And then to come to a place like Kruger, it's a bit of a shock to the system because you're surrounded by campers and we're not used to that. But having said that, it's not that we haven't enjoyed the stay here. It's really been good. I would, however, just make sure that you book the correct campsite at Tsendzi, because otherwise you pretty much wasting your time. You're just camping in a normal campsite with people 3 meters away from you. On this game drive, we've been really lucky. We've seen huge herds of buffalo, which I haven't really seen before. You know, I've seen a couple of buffalo obviously, but I've never seen herds that are 40-50 buffalo strong with a lot of youngsters. And a lot of the game have youngsters at this time of year, so the elephants are pretty protective, understandably. The buffalo are like check you out and look at you as if to say, what the hell are you guys doing here, leave us alone. And then some of them are very docile. So I think the biggest worry at this time of year is probably the elephants, although, you know, I'm exaggerating a little bit because we had no issues. We had a few elephants trumpet us, and a few teenage bulls flap their ears and kind of act big deal to try and intimidate us, but I think they're just showing off to the youngsters. You know, they're the big brothers or the big sisters, and they wanted to show off to the young guys to say, hey, look what we're doing, we're scaring these humans. So nothing too scary, nothing too dangerous. It's been totally safe, and it's been a really nice, safe experience. The roads are really good. The dirt roads are amazing. You know, it's so nice to drive at 20 k's an hour or 16 k's an hour, which is the lowest my cruise control can go, and just enjoy the scenery. I'd love to sort of visit here in the very wet season. We haven't had any rain. It's been very dry. A lot of the rivers are very dry with very small puddles in the bottom of them, and that's pretty much it. So just to give you a bit of background, these hippos were actually fighting with a crocodile. Unfortunately, I wasn't prepared again and my camera didn't focus and I missed it, but I think the hippos won. This hippo doesn't like us yet. Yeah.
Oh, it's coming closer to us. Do not move.
After fighting with the crocodile, I think this hippo was pretty aggravated and decided to size us up and see if he could take us on. Fortunately, he didn't. Okay, and now for the feedback on the new Defender. I know this is not a true overland roughing and toughing it type of trip, but we have kind of roughed it where we don't have any electricity. We do have bathrooms, so we have water, but we've tried not to use the bathrooms just so that we can sort of see how our setup works. We've pretty much only used the bathrooms for showering and toilet stuff, because you obviously, I don't think our neighbors that are a few meters away from us would appreciate it if we set up a toilet right next to them. So but our setup is working, and I'm very confident that it's going to work really well. The solar panels that we have, they're 150 watt flexo power solar panels. They don't seem to be able to produce anywhere near the power that they've advertised. Now, it could be because it's been partly cloudy, but I've actually had them in full sun where I've used 3 panels of 150 watts, and the most I get out of them is about 140 to 160 watts, which is quite disappointing when you've got 450 watts worth of panels in the sun. Maybe it's my setup, maybe I just need to experiment a little bit more, but having said that, they are maintaining and keeping the batteries charged enough for us to stay in one spot pretty much indefinitely, unless we have maybe two or 3 days of heavy cloud and rain. The new Defender has been awesome. We've pretty much done all the roads around Tsendzi, and we haven't had any issues at all. I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure to drive this vehicle around. My fuel consumption is sitting at 8.7 liters per 100 kilometers. With this tank, that's with towing, that's with coming through the Blyde River Canyon. So the car is really doing well in consumption. I'm sure it will be lower than that because of the speeds you do through the park. But the fuel consumption is amazing. I'm pretty confident that I'm going to get 800 to 850 kilometers out of a tank, which is really nice. So I pretty much only have to carry 1 jerry can to make that 1,000 kilometer sort of target that we all aim at when we're in Africa. I'm not sure if it's the same in America and Australia. I'm sure it's not the same in Europe, but generally in Africa we try and aim at 1,000 kilometers worth of fuel because of the inconsistent supply of fuel that you get in Southern Africa when you're traveling outside of the South African borders. Comfort wise, the Land Rover, the new Defender, you cannot beat it. In comparison to my old 130, you may have seen some of the videos that I did in trips. A friend of mine, Ryan from 4x4 Ventures, actually even said to me I must close my windows when I'm filming, and I said, well, they are closed, but that's a Defender, that's how noisy it is. But now with this new Defender, I mean, you're in a lap of luxury. It's absolutely comfortable. It's a stunning car to drive, and I can drive 8 to 10 hours without getting tired at all. This is a big old buffalo, eh? I'm not sure if he's part of a herd. Yo, he's a big boy. Sorry, sir. We moving right along. Thank you very much. Oh, there's his girlfriend in the bushes. I've also fitted Melville and Moon seat covers, which have also been absolutely brilliant. We've spent a little bit of time at Mopani where we go and have a swim when it gets too hot in the middle of the day, and you know, sometimes you got wet shorts on and you climb in the car, and with these seat covers I don't have to worry because they are waterproof, so I don't need to worry about damaging the seats. And geez, they're really holding out well. I mean, we're not the type of people that have to wash, you know, clean your feet before you get in the car and all of this. The seat covers are doing really well. just a pure disclaimer, I paid full retail price for it. I did approach several companies. I did approach another company in Johannesburg, but they didn't bother getting back to me, so I don't know if it's because they don't do the seat covers or they just didn't want to, or maybe they were just too busy, I'm not sure. But I must say the quality is really top notch and I'm really happy with them. Service was also great. You know, they obviously made to order, so they gave me a date and they delivered pretty much, if I remember correctly, it was a day before the date they had promised. They are a real big hassle to fit, to be honest, so if you are able to take up the offer, they offer a free fitment service. I thought I'd be clever and try and fit them myself, and it's a big mission. Okay, the new Defender is definitely dust proof. No dust coming in at all. So maybe it's not a real Defender like everyone's claiming. Here is a good example of why you must be careful of what you ride over or drive over on the roads in Kruger. I'll show you what it looks like from a distance. So please be careful and don't assume that it's elephant dung. What else have I done? I have ordered a rooftop tent, but you're going to have to wait and see which one I've chosen. I've also fitted an Easy Orn 270-degree batwing awning. The main reasons that I chose it is very lightweight, and the bag that it actually packs away in is very small. If you have a look at some of the awnings on the market, they're very big, and they actually make the vehicle look almost too top heavy. You obviously start by unzipping the bag. Then there's 3 clips that you undo. The one is holding in the pegs that if you want to put the legs down, there's pegs that sort of secure the legs. And then you simply just open it up. And you walk around and then secure it on the opposite side of the vehicle. As simple as that. And in less than a minute, you've got either shade or shelter from the rain, as it's waterproof also. There are legs that you can put down, and that's obviously if there's very windy conditions. So you put the legs down just to secure it and peg the legs to the ground so that the awning doesn't get blown away. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, is it as easy to pack away as it is to set up? And the answer is yes. Packing away is simply the opposite of erecting it, and it really is as easy as that. One of the aims that I set out to do with this series for the new Defender is to show that it is a versatile vehicle. Yes, it's a fancy vehicle and all this sort of thing, but I think it's a very capable vehicle, and I think that this is the way modern vehicles are going to be going, to be honest. You know, I look at things like the 200 and 300 series Toyota Land Cruisers. Those are real fancy vehicles, and they're very capable and very comfortable. You know, you don't have to be in a rough and tough 4x4. Sorry, there's a herd of elephant that I would like to show you. You don't have to be in a rough and tough 4x4 to enjoy these places. In fact, I am willing to argue that you enjoy these places a lot more when you're not in a rough and tough 4x4 and when you're in a 4x4 that is very comfortable. Very young. I've got to be careful because just turn off this. Hopefully you are getting this, because I've got to just be careful because that's a very young elephant, and we've got to make sure that you don't irritate the mother and put the baby at risk. I hope you can hear the sounds that these elephants make. They communicate. Sorry, I'm going to have to start the vehicle as a safety thing. put it in gear in case I need to run away, because they are young here. So okay, this one at the back is getting a little bit close, so let me get out of here. I don't really want to irritate an elephant. There you have it. Sorry, a bit of a digression there, but I hope you don't mind. Hope you enjoyed that. Back to the Defender. One of the things I struggled with is that we're getting into our photography, and obviously with the channel filming, and I actually didn't realize how much filming and photography you end up doing. I mean, I've already filled up almost 2 hard drives with, I don't even know how I'm going to edit this. It's going to be a massive task, and I hope it turns out okay. So we need to fit an inverter, because I didn't realize how much power and how little the camera batteries lost. Obviously with all the filming, you know, pretty much every 2 days we need to recharge batteries. So we've been going up to Mopani and borrowing their plugs in the restaurant, and you know, just leaving laptops and cameras plugged into their wall and charging them. So I'm going to need to fit an inverter. I'm going to fit it to the Land Rover and not to the trailer, because for those solo trips where I don't use a trailer, or where my wife and I don't use a trailer, we're going to need to charge cameras anyway, so it will be fitted into the Defender. One really nice feature on this Defender is the rubber flooring. So just to give you an idea, this entire thing comes out, and you've still got plastic flooring there. And if it's full of mud, you can see by the shape of it, you can actually just empty it out and wash it outside, let it dry, and it'll be fine. So that's a really good idea what they've thought of there. Right, Catherine, what are we having for dinner?
Tonight we're having chicken and mealies.
Chicken and mealies?
Yes.
Sounds awesome. I've told you all about the positive things and how great it is, but I want to tell you about a few frustrating things that that we've experienced. So one of the biggest things that you must be aware of is that every time you open and close one of the 4 doors on the 110 and the 90, I'm sure the 2 doors, it starts up the infotainment system, the dashboard, everything kind of starts up, interior lights and everything. So that draws a lot of power every time you do that. So if the car is parked in a campsite and you open up 10, 15, 20 times, what actually happens is that startup is happening 10, 15, 20 times, and you can imagine that you're using quite a lot of power every time you do that. You're going to have a flat battery. So on the first day, without realizing it, and it's actually pretty logical when I think about it afterwards, I got a warning on my dashboard to say, please start vehicle, battery low, which I did. I went for a little 5-kilometer drive and I didn't have another problem again. So if you open up the boot or the rear door on the boot, then it doesn't start everything up. Also, if you leave the doors open, it eventually shuts down and then you have access to your vehicle. But obviously if it's raining or something like that, or if there's monkeys around, you don't want to leave your doors and everything open. So just be aware that you need to manage how often you open your doors, otherwise you could have a flat battery. The second thing is this. Okay, you stop at the gate at Tsendzi. To open the gate at Tsendzi, put your vehicle in park and you get this. Sorry about the ponging, but you're going to hear another one now with my seatbelt, and this is why I'm saying it's such a nuisance. There's my seatbelt. See what I'm saying? It's a little bit of a pain in the butt. Okay, now you're going to hear another one when I open the door. So those are probably the two most irritating bongs I've ever heard, but after a few days in the bush they're not so bad. We just turn off the vehicle then. But just be aware, if anyone knows how to turn those off, geez, please let me know. That's probably the only negative things that I could say. You know, people say, oh, it's got the plastic wheel arches, they're going to get scratched. My old Defender had plastic wheel arches that did get scratched. But you know what? It's going to be used in the bush. So if you take your vehicle to the bush and you're worried about scratches, perhaps you shouldn't go to the bush, because it's going to happen to any vehicle. The Land Rover gets a lot of attention everywhere where we've gone. Maybe it's because it's still new in the market. People have come up and had a look. People have complimented it. I met two ladies in an old TD5 110 Defender here at Mopani, and I made a joke with them. I said to them, I hope you guys wave at us new Defender drivers. And the one lady jokingly said she's still deciding, but then every time we saw them after that, they waved, and it was really nice to meet them. A lot of the other Defender drivers, or old Defender drivers, still don't wave, but I'm going to persevere and we're going to still try. If you're watching this, shame on you, you must wave at us. And if you wave at a new Defender driver and they don't wave at you, keep trying, because they'll get the hang of it eventually. You know, a lot of the new Defender drivers have never owned Defenders before and don't know about the waving thing, so let's teach them. But please wave at me. I've had a few of the old Defenders and I'm not used to not having people wave at me. But yeah, the new Defender, it does get a lot of attention. It does get a lot of compliments all over the place. I've actually seen people take pictures of it, which is really nice. So those are spiders. I'm not sure what type of spider, but if you come to the bush, I really recommend that you slow yourself down. You've got to really force yourself to go slow and have a look at the little things. I find this so interesting. There's one that I saw a few kilometers back that I should have actually filmed that made these look like little tiny things. The one I saw earlier was massive. In fact, I think it can catch birds, never mind insects. But really interesting. Okay, here we have that bigger nest that I was telling you about. I wouldn't like to be tangled in that because I don't know the size of the spider that made that, but to give you an idea, it's probably about 3 foot tall by about 2 foot for our overseas people. Let's say 90 centimeters tall and probably 60 centimeters wide. Quite a spider's nest. elephants don't even realize that there's crocodile. Maybe they do, I don't know. But they don't even realize that there's crocodile in between them. I mean, look there, you can just see the crocodile. This second elephant from the right, I'm sorry, from the left, basically there's a crocodile right in front of it. It's actually sitting in his shadow if you look very carefully. I wish I could zoom in zoom in better for you, but like I say, I need to get a better lens. But that crocodile is within centimeters from me. You might be able to just make out the crocodile now that it's in the sun. But what a privilege to be here, alone in the Kruger Park, watching these majestic animals. They've obviously had enough now, so they're moving off. It's actually so funny watching these elephants, and I hope I got some of it before my phone rang. It's the only time I've had signal when the phone rings. But they get so excited to come down to the water. They start making all sorts of noises, and they actually almost start running into the water. So if you're ever in the wild, sit and just watch. I think too often we just keep driving and we don't really watch how these animals act. The matriarch, or the boss of the herd, has decided that they must leave, so they're leaving. Another thing I'm trying to do, there was a few comments about people wanting to hear bush sounds, so I may not put music over this. Just let me know what you think. If you enjoy listening to the bush, hopefully the sound works out. I've got this very hairy microphone that hopefully is meant to be very good, so hopefully I can capture that for you. These little radios have really worked well. We measured them at about 15-16 kilometers range, so really chuffed with that. Perfect for communication between two vehicles. And there's a little quarter wave antenna. Jimny's got exactly the same radio, really works well, and like I said, these cars aren't clean because we're in the bush and they've been used for a week already. With a little quarter wave antenna also, and that so far has been good for about 15 kilometers. And this is what we call a chongololo. Well, we did it when we were kids growing up in Zimbabwe, and normally if you touch them they curl up. Let's see if this one does it. No, he won't curl up. I guess the correct name is a millipede, I'm not sure. Maybe you guys can let me know. But we used to call it a chongololo when we were growing up. Before I get comments, we didn't feed it. Somebody dropped one on the ground, dropped a little crisp on the ground, and the squirrel decided to chow it. So we don't condone feeding wild animals. Thank you so much for watching. In the next episode, we have a hyena almost run into us and caused Almarie to scramble to close her window. We also head down to Satara for the night, and then we head to Pretoriaskop and end up in Bergendal. I'll also give a brief overview of the trailer. I'll talk a little bit more about camping etiquette. We have more amazing sightings, and we finally get waved at. Thank you so much for watching, and welcome to all the new subscribers, and thank you to those who came back. Hope you enjoyed this episode. See you next time.